Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechphilly.com, and now, as you can see, columnist for the Jewish Press.
Right, and I'm having fun doing all of that, including, my column is called Albany Beat, and I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But today we're going to talk about something that's more cultural in nature. It's going to we're going to talk about the Holocaust. We have a Holocaust survivor with us, a gentleman who's been in this area here for decades. His name's Carl Rosner, and he also runs a company called CardioMag Imaging. So welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
And so good for you to be here. We really want to talk to you about the Holocaust.
I think it's important, Mark, because, that the Holocaust now is 71 years ago, and listen, people don't live forever, unfortunately, and we have to get these stories out firsthand. You're a firsthand observer, if you want to say participant, if that's the right word. Tell us about your story, about a little bit where you grew up, and how you, what happened. You were there. You're not from the history books. You were a first-hand person.
Right. Well, I was born in Hamburg, Germany, and I have two brothers also, and we were living a normal life. I was born in 1929. Hitler came to power in 1933, which was a dramatic shock, of course, to the Jewish communities, not only in Germany, but eventually the rest of the world, unfortunately. And then suddenly I became aware that there was something bad going on, because my parents really had a tough time continuing making a living. My mother had started a business which was taken away from her, and this whole uproar, my father worked there too, and this whole uproar made my parents get divorced, unfortunately. And my father went back to where he was from, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and my mother was left with three small children, which was in Hamburg, Germany. And she had a tough time. It was sort of interesting in that my grandfather, her father, was apparently aware of what was going on. He left Germany at the end of 1933 and to go to Palestine, and he was able to get his whole family out of Germany in time, except for some strange reason my brother and I, well, my youngest brother went with the children's transport to Sweden, so he was safe. But my brother and I were stuck in Hamburg. My mother couldn't take care of us anymore, so she put us in 1937 into a Jewish orphanage. Wow. And that's where we essentially grew up until 1941, when the orphanage was deported. And for a very strange reason, my brother and I were the only ones left.
And you were born in 1929?
29, right.
Yeah.
So my brother was born in 1930. And the reason, apparently, that I still have been unable to figure out why exactly we were left, but a couple of the reasons are that my mother, who had emigrated to Sweden over the border and tried to get us to come to Sweden, she tried to get the Jewish community in Stockholm involved in getting us there, and apparently seemingly was unsuccessful. So that after the war I found out that actually in 1942, I think, or 1943, the German had given us permission to go to Sweden, but that was during a period of time when Hamburg was strongly bombarded by British and American airplanes, and the whole city came to a standstill. We were never informed, and what I found out later was the permission was valid for 6 months. When the 6 months ran out, we were still there. They decided we didn't want to go, or whatever. Then they sent a policeman to where we were living, picked us up, put us. He essentially took us on a train to Buchenwald, or to Weimar first. That put us in a prison there, until the next prisoner cattle car came. We were put on the cattle car, and then we were sent to Buchenwald.
So you were in How do
in
you pronounce it?
1944. This
How-
was actually late in June 44.
So what was the, all right, so in June 44, you were 13.
Right.
Okay.
No, I was
15.
15.
15.
Right.
And when did you, and what was Weimar? Was
Weimar is near Buchenwald. Yeah, Weimar is a main
that's-
city.
That's
where we went to a
That
prison.
wasn't a concentration camp.
No, Weimar is a small city
Okay.
about 8 miles from Buchenwald.
And you were living openly or freely?
Well,
or?
reasonably open. We had to wear a Jewish star, but we of course didn't get much food rations. We went into actually first in a Jewish old age home, then the old age home was deported. Then we were, after the bombardment, we went with a caretaker Jewish family, a mixed marriage, into a small hospital that was designated for the Jewish partner of mixed marriages. And that's where the policeman picked us up from and took us to Weimar.
How long were you in Buchenwald?
Well, in Buchenwald just about a year, just under a year.
The last
Because
year of the war?
Yeah, the last year of the war, right. And again, we are very lucky in that when we arrived, they told us, you're not going to a concentration camp, you're going into a prisoner of war internment camp. So when we arrived, we said, it must be a mistake. They said, no mistake, we know what we're doing. And in the first night, we had some food and some clothing, and we were with lots of other prisoners who had come in a cattle car. They tried to take everything away from us. So I screamed and yelled and tried to fight with them. And then somebody came in to the room where we were waiting for disinfection the next morning and taking everything away from us. And it turns out, luckily, that the person that came in was a Jew who had been in Buchenwald from Hamburg, Germany. So there was an instant bond. And from then on, he really helped us. I mean, we were several times close to death. And he was part of the underground there. His name was Irvin Lippmann.
Mm-hmm.
And he continuously protected us. Towards the last week, when the Germans decided they would get rid of all the Jews first, you were supposed to line up at the Appel counting place. Then we knew this was bad, so we didn't go. I went to him and I asked him, what should we do? He said, I'll put you in a sewer for a couple of days until I figured out what to do. So we were hiding in a sewer part of the last week, and then he made us to become new inmates. The new transport, we were attached to that. We got new Russian names, and then luckily survived until liberation.
What was your name?
I don't remember what that meant. No.
'Cause sometimes when you're
Yeah.
the youngest years
Yeah.
are the ones that you remember most vividly. I
Yeah.
always say I can remember the last 30 years, or my first 30 years, better than the last 30
That's right.
seconds, you know,
Right, yeah,
or 30
sometimes.
minutes.
But there was such a turmoil and such a difficult life the last week. I mean, there was no good.
Did you ever have a bar mitzvah?
Yes, actually, I had a bar mitzvah in Hamburg still. And so had my brother in
That's
the
what I was
orphanage.
wondering.
In the orphanage, right. The orphanage had a synagogue. And I was bar mitzvah there. My brother was bar mitzvah still in a larger synagogue. And we were the last two boys to have bar mitzvah in Hamburg.
The last two.
Last two, right.
Wow.
Mhm.
And your brother has passed away?
No, my brother lives in Israel.
Oh.
I told you before,
B'nai Brak.
Bnei Brak. He lives in Bnei Brak. He's become extremely religious. He believes that God saved us
Yeah.
and for a special purpose.
But he wasn't raised religious.
Well, we were the orphanage
Traditional.
was religious, was Orthodox, right?
Interesting.
And then, of course, we were sort of drifted in and out of being religious. We couldn't get any food, and so we ate anything we could lay our hands on. And after the war, when we went to Sweden, we then, after the liberation, we went back to Hamburg first. Then via the Red Cross, we finally got to Sweden to join our mother. The Jewish community took care of us. And then he went to Israel when the country was formed and wanted to fight in the army. So he's been there ever since. And he has 4 children, 30 grandchildren,
Wow.
and already a dozen
And
great-grandchildren,
you
I
have
think.
3 children.
I have we had 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. I had a lovely wife who I met in Sweden. She was from Vilna, So
Frida, right?
Frida, yeah, and she was amazing.
She passed away in
Very lucky.
06?
She passed away in 1970, in 2000,
Six.
2000, no, in 2007, I think.
2007,
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
So anyway,
yeah.
so it's been an interesting life. I was lucky.
When did they give, do you have a number or something?
No, I don't have a number. The number is part of the, if you look through the papers, I saved the number. My number was 38,156. But in Germany, they didn't put numbers on people's arms. They did that only in Eastern Europe to keep track of them.
Is it?
I don't know why. But in Germany, they didn't. So we
Germany's
did.
Eastern Europe, isn't it?
No,
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 Central,
no. It's,
Central,
the
yeah.
Central.
Okay.
Buchenwald is Central Germany. But Eastern Europe is Poland and Hungary and some of the other countries. They put
Okay.
numbers on people's arms, not on me.
Have you been back to?
Oh yeah, I've been back several times. My whole family.
Have you
Have
you
we're
seen
invited.
Buchenwald again?
Yeah, oh yeah, we went. I've been in Buchenwald now 4 times, I
Oh.
think. Partly to my kids wanted to see it, and we went for the 50th anniversary. The whole family was invited, so my wife and my 3 children went. And then last year they celebrated the 70th anniversary. Again, I was invited, and my daughter and my son, my grandson, came along as well.
Okay.
And I'm impressed with I did not like, obviously, and did not like the older generation, but the younger generation, I'm impressed. They're trying to really help what's going on and make good. I think they feel a responsibility to help the Jews and so forth.
What are these pictures that you're?
Well, these are pictures before the war when we were still a family.
But who's
So
in the
my
picture?
brother,
Which-
my brother and I, and these are the 3 brothers. We have three
Oh,
brothers.
those are 3 brothers.
Yeah,
Okay, I
and
didn't know
this-
which one. Okay.
yeah,
So which one were you? Are you?
I was
in
the
this
one on the
picture?
right, on
You're
the
this-
largest one. Yeah, tall.
this
I'm
one
the
here?
large. Yeah, this one there.
Okay,
That's
that's-
me.
You haven't
Right.
changed a day.
Put
So
this
then I have
picture
some
up, tell me
pictures. This
picture,
was the
and-
big synagogue in Hamburg, which in Kristallnacht 1938 was destroyed. Next picture show how it was a beautiful synagogue. Hamburg had a large Jewish community. This is the day it was destroyed. They just destroyed it wantonly, and there's nothing left, of course. They just have a plaza. I went to a Jewish school next door. That somehow is still standing. I visited that school several years ago.
Mhm.
It's called the Talmud Torah Schule
Wow.
school, so it was a very nice school.
What are the initial CMI on the?
Well,
top
that's
there?
CardioMag imaging.
Oh, that's
your
this is the
company.
my
Talk about
company.
that.
And this is a star I had to wear in Germany. Every Jew to be able to identify
This
who was
is your
Jewish.
personal star?
It's my personal star.
Do you
I
still
sa-
have it?
I save. Yeah, I
Yeah.
still have it. I save things.
Right,
I'm
no,
a saver, right.
That's phenomenal
Yeah,
that
it
you were
is.
able to have
Right,
it come
yeah.
over with you when you
Right.
had so many other things on your mind
Right,
to save
right.
yourself
Right.
that you
Yeah, I did.
kept all
This
these.
is the star I was wearing in Hamburg.
Did you know Malowitz?
No,
the
it doesn't
gentleman?
ring it
You know
up.
who I'm talking about?
No, I don't
He
know.
had Hitler's hat.
No, I don't know.
No, okay. He was locally. He lived locally, and
He
he
did? I
saved
see.
Hitler's hat when
And
he
then
left.
I read about it in the
Yeah.
paper, yeah. This is the number of children, what happened to the children from the Jewish school from 1939 to 42. And you see,
What-
every
what-
year,
What are the
children
numbers?
disappeared. These are boys and girls in a Jewish school. And fewer and fewer each year were left.
Those are 3
and-
different schools.
No, one school, all
One
one
school.
school, but
What is-
each year boys and girls, and what was the last?
Knaben,
To-
Midtown,
Knaben is boys, Mädchen is girls, and total is on the bottom, I guess.
and what is?
The sum total.
Oh, the
Both
total.
together,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, right, okay,
Right.
I got
You
it.
see
I'm
they're
doing my
going
math
down.
now.
Right.
They're going downhill.
Going down
How do
every
you
year.
pronounce
Every
that?
year they were deported more and more.
Zusammen means total, is that?
What? Zusammen, to together,
Zusammen.
to get to
Know
total.
some Yiddish, Mark.
I'm learning, no, I'm
Yeah.
learning, that's why I asked.
This is the entrance to the concentration camp when we visited there and were invited. The first time I went with my daughter, who's a writer,
Yes,
Elizabeth Rosner, and she wanted to write about it and has written a lot about
I
things.
read about, she
She
has
came-
3
yeah.
books that she wrote.
Yeah,
She
she
didn't
has.
like, well, we'll go into it later,
Yeah,
I'll tell
okay,
you,
go
but
ahead.
anyway, yes.
And then this is the entrance to the concentration camp.
Right,
Then the next page is the actual entrance to the door, which says, "To each his own," or what everybody deserves. Is basically where I interpreted and so that people in concentration camp deserved it to be there, is what their attitude basically.
But these were pictures taken most
Oh yeah,
recently.
after we visited,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
okay.
oh absolutely, yeah. After we visited,
Do you
after
have
the war.
pictures from?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
show you the next. This
Me
this is
too.
what this showed what we were wearing and the stars that various ethnic and citizens of different countries had to wear. The top right one is a Jewish star, was a red star as a political prisoner, and then yellow to indicate you were Jewish. We had to wear that in concentration camp.
So if you had the yellow and the red, that was a
It was a
political
Political Jew.
Jew. Okay. All
And
right.
the other red ones were
And what are
prisoners.
the Dutch shoes there and the
This was
stripe?
what we had to wear. We had wooden shoes and just clothing like that, a jacket and a pair of slacks. That was all we were wearing.
And how,
winter
and
and summer.
obviously you didn't have laundry, so
No,
how long
no.
did you had to wear them for a year?
Yeah, that's right. That's
You wore
what
them
you-
the whole time, that was
well,
it?
yeah, that was the only thing we had, right?
Well, you must love doing laundry now.
Thanks.
I mean,
Okay, and the next one shows
Yeah.
actually after we were liberated, I went to the office and I looked for my personnel card.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I found it, and I took it.
You found
I
it.
still saved it. And it gives my whole indication, my name, where I used to live, how tall I was, what my eyes looked like. Very detailed information. And then on top, there's a red stamp. I never knew what that meant. And then I visited the Holocaust Museum, and I saw a Holowith machine. That's an old IBM machine. So this shows that all of this information was really put on a card in an IBM machine, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's a
this
book
is how
written about that.
organized they were. Right.
So is that, I can't see
Yeah,
it.
the next page you'll see
But-
the picture, the
okay.
photo.
But your name was always
My name-
Karl Rosner?
Yeah, Karl-Heinz Rosner, yeah. Middle name is Karl, German name, Karl-Heinz Rosner. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And then the next page is a close-up what I looked like. They took pictures when you arrived, show you here, that's what I looked like when we arrived in the camp.
Wow,
And then the
that's
the
amazing.
next page just shows, on the back, they show your profession, and they say students. Just want to show, Schüler means student,
Student.
yeah.
And Erlenter Beruf?
That means what your profession is,
Ah.
what have you learned, and obviously I didn't
What
fill
is
that in.
Ausgebildet in der Zeit?
That means where you were educated
Oh.
and what pay, and then when you went to the concentration camp.
And Inge's, it means your parents or what?
What is
Under the line, eingesetzt.
No, that when we put into concentration camp, but they didn't
Oh.
fill that out.
Oh.
Yeah, didn't fill. But they have very careful records of everybody.
The Germans were very
Germans,
meticulous with
very
records.
particular with everything, right?
Unfortunately.
And then this shows, I explained what this red
Oh, yeah.
stamp meant. This is prisoner personnel card. And as I said, I always wondered, what does that red stamp mean? And I finally found out that it was really the IBM machine stamp to collect everything on
Yeah,
cards.
there is a book written, IBM and the
Yeah,
Holocaust.
right, yeah.
Really?
The
Yeah.
Germans used
Right.
these IBM machines.
And Uberstelt is, what does that word mean?
Oberstalt.
This was where we came from, or where we came from.
What time? Because it says AM, but I didn't know.
Yeah, it tells the dates and the day,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's, yeah,
I was
everything
just
was
I'm
very,
curious, I want,
very
you have these
well
words on a
organized.
card and you should
Yeah,
know
right.
what, you know.
Next.
Oh,
This
it
was the number that I was wearing. I was prisoner 38,156. Again, I saved that. It's the actual number that I wore. It was not stamped on my arm, but that's what you had to wear on your...
Are you willing
clothing.
this to a museum or you?
I actually have somebody from a Holocaust Museum coming next month to try to collect. I have quite a few, since I save everything else, quite a few mementos. In fact, I have a card that when the policeman came, I sent a postcard quickly to Sweden, and I have that card that was returned to me. Then I also have a Red Cross card that was delivered to the concentration camp from Palestine, from my grandparents. And so I have
Yeah.
quite a few
So they're
mementos.
coming to,
They're
which
coming to collect
Holocaust, which Holocaust?
the Washington
D.C.
yeah,
And they're
DC.
gonna come and collect this,
Yeah,
and then
I'll decide what to give them, or give them copies of it or whatever.
you'll have an exhibit that will have your name on it in the
Yeah,
Holocaust?
actually, there's no, that I won't, it's not that big. I have a exhibit in the Federation Building. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Well, we should
You
tell
know,
the audience.
Yeah, there is a Rosner exhibit in the Federation
Building,
Library
yeah.
that we've dedicated to that. So it shows some of the pictures, shows some copies of this so that people can see. And I talk to school children. They invite me to talk to Jewish and non-Jewish school children so that they know about it.
Oh, I see that. I've seen
Yeah.
you've been all around
Yeah.
Mayfield and Fulton
Right,
County
right,
and
yeah, right.
other places. You know, you really do
Yeah,
get around.
I want to make sure that people know about it firsthand.
That's why
because
you're on the Jewish View here,
makes a
because
makes
have a
a
big
big
audience,
difference
too.
to hear.
Yeah, so let's look
Keep
through
on
some-
going. We
Just
have-
a few more. This is the barracks we were in concentration camp. The next page shows
And that's
how
where,
close
and that's where you lived? You
yeah,
lived
that's
on those
in
bunks,
concentration.
huh?
Yeah, right, in those bunks. There were 3 levels.
Tiers.
How tall were you?
I don't remember.
'Cause
Probably 5'8",
You're
5'9".
taller now.
A little bit taller,
Yeah.
but I've shrunk since I got older now. I'm shrinking. And this is how tightly we were
Wow.
in the concentration.
So those
camps.
bunks fit more than one person? I mean, that was...
Yeah. Oh, you were just as. I mean, you just enough space for one person. So the bunk was wide. I put 3 people into one bunk.
You had to
One
get,
bunk.
you had to really like the person.
No, look, in concentration camp, what I always say is, Buchenwald was a kind of concentration camp where they worked you to death and starved you to death. So they let you work, or you had to work. I had to work as a bricklayer, and they gave you one ration, one evening, which had to last 24 hours. And I get a small piece of bread, about 3 slices, and a bowl of watery soup. That had to last till the next day. And of course, you're always hungry, always tired, always sick. It was just terrible. It was lucky that we survived. And in that case, if I had been there longer, I don't think we would have survived.
Wow.
It was lucky that we were there for a short time.
Wow.
And then these are my 3, we had a get together with my 3 brothers. This is what they look like today. Although the youngest one passed away last year, so you know.
So which one, are you in the checkered
I'm
shirt?
in the middle. I'm
You're
in the middle. No,
Oh.
the youngest one is a checkered shirt. He's the
Oh.
one, and the one with the beard is my brother that lives in Bnei Brak.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And then this is sort of a picture.
other way.
Turn the other way. Yeah, this is a picture of how we had to stand up every morning, every night to be counted,
Mhm. Yeah.
and sometimes for several hours until they found everybody.
Oh, wait, never mind.
And then this is just last year when we had a they invited me to the 70th anniversary of liberation, and my cousin from France and my grandson came, and my daughter, to be with me doing that.
Was there a lot of walking?
Yeah, there was a lot of walking,
That's why
and
you're
I
in a
can't.
wheelchair.
That's why I wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk that much. It's emotionally very, obviously very difficult to take. But I was pleased that they were doing that, and I want to make sure, as long as I can go, I'll do it.
Wow.
And then this is what the concentration camp tour looked like. Each bunk building looked like that. They were all. We were in one. I was on one side. My brother was on the other side. So we were luckily together.
Where it says prisoners' infirmary, you were on one side, or? is it-
No, in one of the buildings, well, actually, building 21 or 22
Yeah.
was a Jewish block. Well, again, this Lippmann got us into that.
Oh, I see,
So,
by the blue,
yeah,
where it comes
yeah,
up, block
right,
22.
right. Uh-huh,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
That's where we were. And then
Not the other
this is what since kids may never have seen what Hitler looked like. This
Oh,
I'm showing them a picture, and then the last picture I think is what my family looked like when we get together. I had a very lovely family, so my wife and my 3 children. They
yeah.
all went to very good universities, and I'm very proud of them.
And I'm proud that, you know,
Yeah,
of what you've been through.
So anyway, that's a story that I
Just
share.
incredible what you've been
It
through.
is,
Yeah.
right.
Well, you also, you know, like,
Everyone I know who have been Holocaust survivor have always been really thin.
Yeah.
They come out of there
Right,
and
exactly,
they
yeah.
never really
Well,
get,
I don't
you
know. I feel I'm too a little bit too.
Yeah. it's good.
Although
Better
I
to
had-
be
I
too
had
good.
problems.
You
I had-
filled out.
looking good.
What
I'm
was
still-
that? I'm sorry?
No, I had some serious illnesses afterwards. My stomach has always been a problem. I had a stomach operation, 2/3 were removed. I had brain surgery. So
You think
I've
it's
been
from
very
there
lucky.
because of your,
I don't know what
Trials and
caused it.
tribulations.
Yeah, probably. I obviously had a very difficult childhood. And I was lucky I survived. I was lucky I'd be able to
Mm.
come to the United States thanks to my wife. She and her family were in Sweden from Lithuania to come to America. So we got married and we came to America. So I'm very pleased. I think I made the right decision.
And then you worked for General Electric.
Then I was hired out of college, General Electric Research Lab, and then from 1955 to 1971, and I was working on a technology that I felt had a good future, and I wanted GE to let me spin off, which they did.
And
I
what was
formed
the-
a company called Intermagnetics General Corporation,
Right, IGC.
IGC.
And what was that you were working on? What?
It's a technology called superconductivity, and we were a major provider of devices, magnets that made MRI possible. So we contributed to the development of MRI. Then the company was sold for 1.3 billion.
Right.
Unfortunately, I had a very tiny stake, but I invested
Even
all
a-
of that.
Even a little bit of that is still a
It's
lot of money.
Still a lot of money, but I invested that into CardioMag. I'm still hoping CardioMag will also be a billion-dollar company. It is a company that's developed an amazing detection system for heart disease. We can, in 10 minutes, determine whether you have heart disease or you have a healthy heart or you have a beginning of heart disease. You can do something about it.
And
So-
and why can't you, I mean, you know
Well,
the
we already
industry.
spent $30 million, but we now need another 50 or 60 to get it commercialized.
50, 60 million.
60 million.
seems like you have such a
And-
good idea that,
I
I
know,
mean, it
but
should
But
be
you're how
people.
old now?
I'm 87.
87.
I'm still going to work every day.
You look like
But
you're
you-
29.
Well, I sure.
But you got to get going with this.
I know. Oh yeah, I have some.
I mean, we say may you live to be
finally,
120, but.
finally, I have some very good people. I'm hoping that within the next 6 months to a year, I'll find
Okay.
somebody to replace me and take me over, take the company over. That's what I'm. but then
Oh, you have
I-
such a
that's
good
right.
idea, then you
Yeah.
think someone
Well,
would
will
grab
they,
it.
they pay you for the company? I mean, whoever takes it
I hope
over?
so. They'll pay me something at least. I've put all my, I have 15 million, I put the 15 million I made in the magnetics, I put in this company now, and I'm sort of out of savings. I can't do it
Really?
anymore.
You know, you would think that you hear these stories when people win the
Right.
lottery. You
Right,
don't hear
right.
this when they're businessmen.
Right, yeah. No,
Did-
not
did-
yet, not
Have
yet.
you worked with people in this area? You know, this area, they talk
Oh, yeah.
about all of the
Oh, yeah, I've hired-
entrepreneurship and all
Yeah,
that,
oh,
but
yeah,
I haven't
we-
seen it.
We
but-
were the most successful company in the area for a long time. I mean, the company I started was sold for 1.3 billion in the area.
No, I know IGC.
And it still is it, yeah.
IGC was off of I-90,
Yeah.
you know.
IDC is now in Latham also.
Right,
Right, it's still working. Philips Medical bought it out, and they continuing
okay,
to
but
work
with
on it.
but did you see with
CardioMag,
CardioMag?
we are now working in Latham. We moved to a smaller location. I couldn't afford the larger location anymore.
Right.
But we have a very nice facility. We test people there, invite investors in there. I'm hoping that they'll really get excited about it.
Now-
It will be another billion-dollar company. If I can hold out, it'll be
Keep
that.
going, we say till 120, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
and in Jewish, that's how we
Well,
talk.
as I said, I've been very lucky, been helped by many people.
Are you
and-
working with people who can help you find investors?
Yes, I'm working with people.
Locally? Are they
yeah,
locally?
Well, a few are locally. The local area for investment is not very good.
It's not, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
that's terrible. No, I'm working with people outside of the area.
Yeah, because people tell me from like, you know,
Yeah.
the people who want to promote that we're big in investments,
Yeah.
you know, and I
This
say,
is
no,
not
we're
a good,
not. It's
no, it's
not.
not a good area, unfortunately. I've not been successful here. Originally, when I started in magnetics, I had some local investors, but when I needed more money,
Yeah,
they didn't come through, and today they don't come through. I mean, this is
I think California.
this is such people tell me if I had been in California or in
Right.
Boston, would have been a lot easier.
yeah.
This area is not good for entrepreneurial businesses.
I just wanted to mention your daughter for a minute, because she's living around Berkeley.
Yeah,
And she wrote that she never wanted to come to Schenectady. She wanted to put it behind her, and then she
Right.
wrote a book about Schenectady,
yeah.
and she brought her roots back into
Yeah,
it.
right.
But she was such anti-Schenectady.
yeah, that's right.
I
Oh,
was,
she wanted to get away with it. It just was too small for her. But anyway, she is actually coming to visit me the next few days. She's going to be here for a few days. She talks to business clubs and book clubs primarily, and libraries and so on. She's a successful author.
how long is she staying? 'Cause we
She's
may-
only staying for 3 days.
Oh,
And she's
darn it.
coming back in June, though,
Okay.
if you want to.
Have her on.
Cal,
Yeah,
Roger,
or
we're
July.
out of time. You know, I want to
okay.
really thank you, and on behalf of all our viewers, because you're saying getting the story of the Holocaust out is very, very important. People surely shouldn't forget it, and they should remember, and who knows what
Yeah.
would happen in the future. History is all our best
Right.
tool of learning. So, I mean, your life is incredible, and that's an understatement. You know, you came from the abyss, from the lowest,
Right.
being in a concentration camp, to making
Yeah.
$1 billion company. So, listen, the only thing we can say is, like we say in Jewish, that you should be healthy till 120. You should only see brachas and blessings in your whole life.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Yeah, all right.